Key point 1. Ancient philosophers are more relevant than you might realize. Centuries have passed since the fall of ancient Greece, yet its impact remains just as strong today. We've all heard of Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates. They were among a rare breed of philosophers who devoted their lives to exploring life's most profound questions. Who are we? Why are we here? Why does the world function as it does? And most importantly, how can we improve? Many philosophers of later eras found themselves drawn back to the enduring wisdom of ancient Greece, particularly in response to the rise of 20th century dictatorships. There was a timeless quality to their predecessors' insights. To this day, Plato's Republic remains one of the most critical texts explaining how politics, justice, and power work. Socrates was the first philosopher to present a vision of how an ideal society would function. He passed down his profound wisdom to his diligent student Plato, who recorded and shared those insights with us. What characteristics define a perfect ruler? What professions are essential in this society? How do family and childbirth fit into the picture? What sort of education should these ideal citizens receive? He addresses all of these questions through dialogue. So, let's dive into the alternative reality that Socrates envisioned and learned from his ancient wisdom. Key point 2. What makes a good ruler? During a philosophical chat over dinner, Thrasymachus and Socrates get into a heated debate about the nature of power. Thrasymachus argues that every ruler, and consequently every form of government, acts solely in their self-interest. As the dominant force, the rulers can punish those who go against their will. In his view, committing injustice strengthens a ruler. However, Socrates has a different view. To him, leading the government is a professional skill like any other. The citizens are the primary beneficiaries and recipients. So a proper ruler always keeps their subjects' well-being in mind, never prioritizing money-making or exploiting others. Thus, effective leadership entails catering to the needs of the people. Managing a country is a job to perform like any other, even if we rarely see it that way. Socrates further argued that a good ruler would never agree to rule solely for financial gain or honor. If ambition or fame gets in the way of a ruler's job, their judgment will immediately become clouded. While rewards are necessary in every profession, Socrates insists that serving others must always remain the top priority. But it never pays to be miserable, but to be happy. Plato. Socrates asserted that a just individual who cares about others' welfare experiences greater happiness than the unjust, whose self-interest guides their actions. He believed that injustice damages moral character, causing harm to both the perpetrator and those affected. Conversely, justice holds great value, providing benefits and fulfillment to the ruler and the governed. Did you know? The Greek word for happy is eudaimon. It has a slightly different meaning than in English. Eudaimon translates to an immediate and fleeting, rather than permanent feeling of happiness. Key point 3. How to run an ideal society. Before envisioning an ideal state, Socrates raises a fundamental question. How are societies built in the first place? Furthermore, what are their basic elements, and who inhabits them? He identifies two principles underlying every community: mutual need. Individuals cannot be completely self-sufficient. They must stick together and rely on each other. Aptitude difference. As people are all inherently unique in their preferences and skills, individuals should focus on strengthening their natural abilities to be helpful and fulfill the needs of others. These principles form the basis of any group. Subsequently, every society needs an economic structure where people fulfill specific functions. Socrates suggests that even the most primitive societies have at least 5 classes: producers, agricultural or industrial, merchants, sailors and shipowners, retail traders, manual laborers. We all start with basic needs like food, shelter, and clothing. As society grows, it demands a broader range of professionals to satisfy its growing appetite. Over time, the group grows to include farmers, builders, weavers, and shoemakers. They specialize in what they're naturally good at and provide for others. Together, these people form a civilization. Ancient Greeks believed a harmonious person possessed a developed physique and strong mind. As trade and population grow, the territory becomes cramped. Inevitably, the state engages in war to conquer more territories and gain more influence. Thus, the need appears for another class, soldiers who would defend and fight for this society. Socrates calls them guardians. These individuals are physically strong, courageous, and ambitious. Although these are excellent characteristics, there is also a risk that the guardians could seize power and become tyrants. So, how can society prevent this? According to Socrates, the key lies in education. A perfect state is responsible for molding a sound physique and a strong moral character in its citizens. First, citizens must learn to read, write, and study music and poetry. Physical education is also necessary from early childhood, followed by 2 years of military training when a person turns 18. Only then are these individuals ready to choose their profession and contribute to society. Key point 4. A vision of a harmonious world. In a well-ordered society, distinct roles and virtues contribute to harmony and success. In Socrates' vision, an ideal state is possible when each citizen fulfills their unique role. He sees the guardian class at its core, divided into 2 roles: rulers and auxiliaries. Rulers must exercise authority and dedicate their lives to the community's well-being. Conversely, auxiliaries provide security and order for the state under the ruler's commands. Every action the rulers take is intended to benefit the entire community, so they must dedicate themselves fully to this mission. Socrates suggests they must lead an austere lifestyle and have private property or close family ties. Otherwise, their interests can overshadow the public good. Similarly, auxiliaries act as protectors and are restricted from tyrannical power abuse. In this ideal society, only the third class can possess property. However, the state must continuously monitor them to avoid causing extremes of wealth and poverty. The state's military ensures external security, but its true strength lies in its educational system. Education is the bedrock upon which society's values, virtues, and structure are preserved. It fosters 4 central values. 1. Wisdom emanates from knowledgeable rulers. 2. Courage is the trait of brave auxiliaries. 3. Discipline stems from the harmony between all classes. 4. Justice is the main principle ensuring that everyone contributes to society according to their natural abilities. Socrates parallels the state's structure with the individual soul, proposing 3 corresponding elements: reason, desire, and spirit. Like the state, each individual possesses these elements to varying degrees, creating a complex mix of motives and actions. The rational part governs, the spirited part defends and aspires, and the desirous party seeks fulfillment. Harmony within the individual mirrors the justice that can be built in the broader society. Just as health is preferable to disease, a just society, functioning through its members' harmony and virtues, is inherently superior to a corrupt one. This allegory serves as a timeless reminder. The strength of a community lies in its unity. Every prosperous and just society starts from individual effort. Key point 5. What about gender equality? But how do gender roles and family fit into this ideal society? Socrates asserts that men and women are equal. Although different biologically, they can share the same responsibilities. Both sexes should engage in the same occupations and receive identical education. The criteria for becoming guardians of this society depend on merit and capability rather than sex. Women capable of philosophical thought and possessing the required qualities are worthy of these roles, just as men are. Physical strength differs between the two sexes, but both have an inherent potential for guardianship. Society thrives when it maximizes the full potential of all its members, regardless of sexual orientation. This perfect society also reimagines warfare. It integrates women into military roles and actively exposes children to the realities of war from a young age. The goal is to foster a unified, resilient community capable of fighting against foreign invaders and external threats. Doesn't it seem similar to what we strive for in the 21st century? Well, this next radical idea from Socrates' time might change that. Socrates proposes eliminating private family and traditional family structures altogether. In this society, children are taken away from their parents from birth and raised communally by state institutions. Men and women never marry and only mate to breed new citizens. Moreover, the state regulates coupling through special matching procedures and festivals. This bold move aims to dissolve familial distractions and direct citizens' energy toward the community. As citizens age, the rules loosen, and they are free to choose their partners, emphasizing the state's interests over individual desires. For example, if a child is born outside a sanctioned union or deemed unfit by society's standards, this state would not allow them to live. While this method is shocking by modern standards, such measures reflect Socrates' relentless pursuit of societal perfection. Key point 6. Why we all live in an illusion. Plato's cave vividly shows how limited human perception is. Imagine prisoners who have been chained to a wall in a dark cave since childhood. Behind them, a fire burns, casting shadows of objects carried along a raised walkway. To these prisoners, these shadows are the only reality they know, and they believe these silhouettes are all that exist. We should never stop questioning our beliefs to remain open-minded. Suddenly, a prisoner is freed and forced to turn toward the fire and the objects. The light blinds them, and the objects he now sees seem less real than the familiar shadows. Adapting to the new reality is even more difficult after a prisoner exits the cave and experiences the sunlight for the first time. Initially, they can only gaze at reflections or shadows, but gradually, they can look at actual objects. Finally, they can look directly at the sun, which governs everything they once saw in the cave. This journey from darkness to light symbolizes humanity's never-ending journey from ignorance to knowledge, from perceiving mere shadows or our illusions to understanding the true reality behind them. The sun represents the form of good, the ultimate source of truth. Those who reach reality must return to the cave and guide others toward enlightenment. Plato's cave challenges us to consider our limitations and acknowledge that what we see might only be a shadow of the truth. I am the wisest man alive, for I know one thing, and that is that I know nothing. Plato claims that philosophers are the only people who can see through illusions, so only they are fit to rule and lead society to enlightenment. The philosopher-ruler, as envisioned by Plato, is an individual who harmonizes wisdom with governance. Their rigorous education encompasses the practicalities of ruling and profound intellectual and moral training. They study mathematics, including arithmetic, geometry, and astronomy, to cultivate an abstract and critical way of thinking. Besides being deep thinkers, philosophers are also ethical beings who embody the virtues they preach. Power is not their primary interest. Instead, they strive to build a just and morally sound society. Essentially, philosophers are the guardians of both wisdom and the state's well-being. Key point 7. A dive into imperfect societies. To build a perfect society, we should know about the imperfect or failed ones. Plato describes the four main types of citizens shaped by this society's order. Timarchy. This society is driven by honor and war, with qualities reminiscent of ancient Sparta. Leaders are selected for their military skills rather than intellectual capabilities. This society operates through continuous conflicts, so its citizens choose simpler, war-oriented individuals for leaders. In a timarchy, ambition overshadows wisdom, and the pursuit of honor leads to an inner conflict within society. Oligarchy. Wealth is an oligarchy's main criteria for power and respect. It creates a sharp divide between the rich and poor, leading to a society where the wealthy rule and the impoverished suffer. The accumulation of wealth drives oligarchy citizens and can even lead to criminal behavior. When material possessions define status within society, moral values decline. Democracy. This society operates on political freedom, where everyone is treated equally regardless of their similarities or differences. Despite being agreeable, Plato believed it could also be anarchic, with many choices without guiding principles. The democratic individual is versatile, but may lack depth, constantly pursuing various desires without a clear goal. In such a society, excessive freedom leads to a lack of direction and purpose. Tyranny, the most deplorable of all. Tyranny allows for the rise of a single ruler who becomes a despot. Tyranny is born from the conflict between the rich and poor within a democracy. The tyrannical individual mirrors the criminal type, resorting to oppression and fear to maintain control. This type of society is the unhappiest, as power concentrated in the hands of the few inevitably leads to misery. Each society reflects a part of the human psyche, revealing deeper truths about our values. These societal models merely serve as mirrors reflecting timeless human traits and tendencies. In acknowledging these imperfections, we should strive for a society that balances ambition with wisdom, wealth with equality, freedom with purpose, and power with compassion. Conclusion. The ancient philosophers of Greece provide timeless wisdom, urging us to answer fundamental questions about our existence, governance, and societal structures. From the class structure envisioned by Socrates to Plato's allegorical cave, their insights offer profound lessons on how we can better live as individuals and as a society. They highlight the importance of justice, the virtues of a good ruler, and the potential for a society that maximizes the full capabilities of all its members, regardless of sex or class. Their views should challenge us to rethink our perceptions and strive for a more enlightened community. And perhaps one day, we can find that harmonious balance within ourselves and our societies. Try this. Cultivate a balanced life that values both physical and mental development. Embrace open-mindedness and continually question your beliefs to understand the world better. Find more information on the forms of government that took place in your country. Compare what you discover with Plato's views.